Clinton today was doing very little to save her.
This is Lonnie GUINIER. Is she worried about the Senate confirming her or the White House dumping her? Not a word from her today, unlike her close friend, the President of the United States, who seemed to be backing away from her nomination.
I have to talk to some of the senators about it because of the reservations that have been raised both publicly and privately.
Those reservations are rooted in the record of Ms. GUINIER's own words, a paper trail opponents are exploiting in their portrait of her as a radical threat to mainstream democracy.
Consistently hostile to the principle of one person, one vote, consistently hostile to majority rule, and a consistent supporter not only of quotas, but of vote-rigging schemes that make quotas look mild.
What Senator Dole is talking about is Ms. GUINIER's contention that in a racially divided society, majority rule is not a reliable instrument of democracy, and her argument that black politicians elected with white votes are not necessarily representative of the black community. In her words, authentic leaders are those elected by black voters. Chairman Biden of the Judiciary Committee says she doesn't have a chance if she doesn't adequately explain herself. And Senator Lieberman, also a Democrat, says right now he can't support her.
Her writings are brilliant. I just disagree with them. And I disagree with them in a way that is fundamental to the position for which she's nominated.
Most civil rights organizations defend Ms. GUINIER and won't accept anything less from President Clinton.
The same charges hurled at her have been hurled at his wife. He has backbone. He will not back down.
And that's what the White House is saying tonight. Ms. GUINIER is still the president's choice. She is also the president's latest political problem. The word is that with his much touted move to the political center, she has now become excess political baggage. Jim Wooten, ABC News, Washington.
So what is all this about a move back to the political center that you've heard so much about in the last several days? It is an attempt by the president to get back to that place on the political spectrum where he gets the most public support. ABC's Jeff Greenfield on the evidence.
When a president is in trouble, the story becomes a perpetual motion machine. Bad press becomes bad poll numbers, which becomes more bad press. And when that happens, the White House image-making machinery becomes about as subtle as a brick. In this case, the story of the week has been Bill Clinton's move to the center. That move explains the naming of David Gergen, who was Ronald Reagan's communication director, to a senior White House policy post, a Saturday announcement that dominated the news over the normally slow Memorial Day weekend. The move to the center explains the presidential visit yesterday to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, home of blue-collar, socially conservative Democrats. It explains not just the down-home pictures, but the more conservative language as well.
Some, but not all, in the National Democratic Party have placed too much faith in the whole politics of entitlement, the idea that big bureaucracies and government spending demanding nothing in return can produce the results we want.
If it sounds familiar, it was just this theme that worked so well for Clinton last year, a theme captured by the single most effective Clinton campaign ad. And it is just that theme Mr. Clinton is resurrecting now. Yesterday in Milwaukee, he promised to get tough on welfare.
After 2 years you don't have a job, you have to go to work in the public or private sector.
The move to the center also explains why the Clinton administration is strongly hinting that the next Supreme Court nominee is likely to be a white male, rather than a minority. There's no mistaking the intent of all this political plastic surgery. What we have yet to learn is its impact. Will this move to the center reassure the public? Will the public even notice? Or will it strengthen the idea that President Clinton really doesn't know where he stands at all? Jeff Greenfield, ABC News, New York.
Well, there was some good economic news for the government today. The housing industry had a banner month in April. People who held off looking for homes in March because of the weather came out of the woodwork. In April, home sales went up nearly 23%. Overall, the economic news was somewhat more modest. The government's main economic forecasting gauge, the index of leading economic indicators, went up by only 0.1%. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials gained about a point to close at 35.53, and the trading was heavy. When we come back, the other news, a stay of execution in Texas. On the American agenda tonight, getting sexual harassment out of the classroom. And Wayne Gretzky, the great one, is back.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by the makers of Tylenol.
2 a.m., 36 Pine Street. Apartment 4C has a backache and can't sleep. 3C overdid her afternoon workout and is paying the price. ABC had an aching back, but fortunately she also has Tylenol PM gel caps with extra strength Tylenol pain reliever, plus a gentle ingredient to help her sleep. And a good night's sleep was all she needed to make her day a whole lot brighter. Tylenol PM, so you can rest easy.
Lower grade mustard seeds may be good enough for ordinary yellow mustards, but only top grade seeds. Plus all natural ingredients go into French's. Isn't your hot dog worth it? French's, America's favorite mustard.
One shot, all it takes for weeds. Roundup.
In Texas today, Gary Graham, the convicted killer who was to be executed early tomorrow morning, has been given a reprieve by a state appeals court, but not on the grounds which his supporters had put forward. Here's ABC's Linda Patillo.
Stop the execution now! Stop the execution now! Death penalty opponents had been hoping the court would allow Gary Graham to present new evidence of his innocence. Instead, the court granted the reprieve based on whether Graham's age should have been taken into consideration before he was sentenced to death. He was only 17 at the time of the murder. That is an issue about to be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court in another case, and the Texas court wants to wait until that question is decided before ruling in Graham's case. Graham's supporters and attorneys are glad for any reprieve, but are disappointed by the court's refusal to hear the new evidence.
We're empty and somewhat outraged because the court still has not fulfilled its responsibility.
We did not want to see Gary Graham executed, but they did nothing more than add 30 days to Gary Graham's life.
Graham's attorneys will spend those 30 days trying to force someone in Texas, the courts, the governor, or the Board of Pardons and Paroles, to listen to the evidence they believe proves Gary Graham is innocent. Linda Patillo, ABC News, Houston.
The death toll from the mystery illness in the Southwest is now 13. Doctors say that a Native American died last month in Arizona. As a result of this flu-like disease, most of the victims have been Navajo Indians. Doctors do not know how contagious the disease may be, but the fear of infection is catching. Here's ABC's Gary Shepard.
These third graders, Navajo children from Arizona, were headed home today after being told they could not visit with their pen pals at a Los Angeles school. The principal of the California school and her students were worried they might catch the disease from the Navajo children.
Since we didn't have the information that was necessary to make what we would call a truly intelligent decision, I had to make the decision that I thought was right for the children.
The kids could be carriers, and if they're carriers, then we could catch it, and we spread it all around California.
Meanwhile, health officials say those fears are unfounded.
We're trying to reassure the community we do not think this is easily transmitted from one patient to another if it is indeed an infectious disease.
Indian leaders and medical experts held an urgent meeting in Window Rock, Arizona, the Navajo capital, to plan a major door-to-door survey to find some common link among people who have gotten sick or died from the disease. Authorities hope the medical questionnaire will reach a majority of the 200,000 Navajos on the reservation. The questions are aimed at giving investigators clues as to what is causing the disease.
We need to gather these information as fast as we can. The faster we can do it, the better it'll be for everyone.
I urge and beg the Navajo people not to be afraid of that. I mean, we have to get that information.
But Navajos traditionally are very private people, and that may make home visits by the survey team difficult. The door-to-door survey is expected to take up to 2 weeks, so it may be a while before scientists figure out what is causing this disease. Gary Shepard, ABC News, Window Rock, Arizona.
Well, how long will it take? Joining us now to answer, hopefully, some of our questions is our medical editor, Dr. Tim Johnson. Tim, in this age of medical marvels, an elementary question, why is it a mystery?
Because none of the usual culprits have been identified. We have to remember that in the case of Legionnaire's disease, for example, it took 5 months and 34 deaths before that new organism could be identified. it could be many months before we find an answer, and it's possible we may never find an answer.
Second elementary question, where do you begin? How do you begin trying to solve it?
There are three ways you approach it. One is to look for patterns of geography, of relationships, of common food or water sources. That's what the door-to-door survey is about. Secondly, you test in the laboratory for organisms by looking at all kinds of tissues and all kinds of other samples. And thirdly, you look at autopsies for any telltale clues.
Now, the clues that we're hearing already today is that this is not necessarily contagious, right?
That's right. It's very difficult to tell from such small numbers. It's fair to say that it is not highly contagious so far, otherwise the numbers would be much greater. But whether or not it's even an infectious cause or maybe a common food or water source has yet to be determined, so we really can't say.
But there is that fear of contagion, as we heard Gary Shepard mention. People who are elsewhere, should they be concerned about New Mexico?
I would say that until we have answers, if you want to be absolutely safe, you shouldn't travel to that area unless it's absolutely necessary. That's the very cautious viewpoint. But again, I would stress that it is obviously so far not highly contagious.
But for doctors like yourself, this must be a shocking reminder of it's just a science, right?
And that's what ultimately is going to provide the answer, is not guessing, which is what everybody's now doing, but hard work that comes up with scientific answers.
Okay, Tim Johnson, our medical editor, thanks very much. The Food and Drug Administration was certainly unequivocal on one subject today. Not one of those over-the-counter pills or tablets or chewing gums that are supposed to help smokers quit works. And the FDA told manufacturers to start getting them off the market. The two most effective prescription products, nicotine gum and nicotine patches, are not effective. In Del Rio, Texas today, a drug dealer's revenge. Narcotics agents say that a dog who had sniffed out millions of dollars worth of cocaine and marijuana along the Mexican border has been found dead, poisoned. Drug dealers, they believe, had put a bounty on its head. In a moment, the French AIDS scandal. It claims another life. We'll go overseas.
Most of the Earth's surface is covered by water, which means most of the Earth is covered by Princess. No cruise line sails more ships to more ports of call worldwide than Princess, because it's more than a cruise. It's the love boat.
I saw my doctor because the pain was so bad. I was afraid I needed surgery for my hemorrhoids. I was itching. The burning was awful. But my doctor said my hemorrhoids weren't serious. I didn't need surgery. He told me it was time I started using Preparation H.
Preparation H helps relieve the symptoms of inflamed hemorrhoidal tissues, often bringing relief from itching, burning, and painful irritation for hours.
What a difference Preparation H makes.
Doctor recommended Preparation H.
Introducing Ford Taurus and the little things. The design of the Taurus pays close attention to these little things, while its dual airbags and anti-lock brakes pay close attention to these little things. Ford Taurus, America's best-selling car.
Look what's in the ice cream section. Weight Watchers caramel nut bars, creamy ice milk and gooey caramel. Each 130 calories from Weight Watchers.
In Sarajevo today, there were several funerals for some of the 15 people who died when their neighborhood soccer match came under attack by Serbian forces. It is too dangerous to reach the nearest cemetery, and so the bodies were buried near the apartment houses where those who died had lived. The United Nations has suspended relief flights into Sarajevo after a bullet hit a U.S. cargo plane. And in another region of Bosnia today, a television cameraman from Belgium was killed by a sniper. In South Africa today, Winnie Mandela learned she will not have to go to jail. The Supreme Court has set aside her 6-year sentence for kidnapping and assault. The wife of Nelson Mandela will pay a $5,000 fine instead. There had been speculation that if she was jailed, her young radical supporters might have resorted to violence. In France tonight, people are mourning a young man who died as the result of deliberate medical malpractice. During the 1980s, about 1,500 French hemophiliacs were infected with the AIDS virus because of a deliberate decision by officials to continue giving transfusions with blood they knew to be infected. One of those who received the bad blood was Stéphane Godin. He died today. Here's ABC's Jim Bitterman.
Stéphane Godin was 13 years old when he watched his younger brother Laurent die of AIDS. He vowed he would struggle harder before death took him. So he tried to ignore that he, too, was AIDS sick and pursued his dream to get his pilot's license. The story of Stefan and his brother, videotaped by their father, is known to virtually everyone in France. The two boys, both hemophiliacs, were infected by tainted blood products distributed by French health authorities who knew they were contaminated. The public outcry over the Godin boys and hundreds of other victims forced the government to bring those responsible to trial last summer. Stefan and his parents attended every day of the proceedings. They said they wanted to see justice done. When Dr. Michel Goretta, the director of the French Blood Transfusion Center, was found guilty, the Godins felt vindicated. But they were outraged that Goretta's sentence was just 4 years in jail. Just last month, as Goretta's appeal came up, Stefan, now very sick, struggled to come to court again. Time has passed, though. The blood scandal has not been in the headlines much. Medical authorities said yesterday they will restore Goretta's medical license even before the end of his jail term. That news enraged Stefan's father. But Stefan could today no longer carry on the struggle. He'll be buried next to his brother. Jim Bitterman, ABC News, Paris.
In a moment, the American Agenda.
Just weeks from now, Ed McMahon will announce the $10 million winning number for American Family.
Right. You can be very, very rich in no time at all. Enter fast, win fast. In America's only sweepstakes with my picture.
The one that can put you on Easy Street real soon. Imagine, you, a super rich multi-millionaire.
Return the winning number in time and the $10 million grand prize can be yours in just weeks.
So be sure to enter at once.
When was the last time you had an irresistible hot fudge sundae? Or a fantabulous banana split? Pick any of our 30 wonderful flavors. And don't forget the nuts! So come on, get that 30 wonderful feeling.
Searching for the perfect shave? You'll find it with Norelco. Our lift and cut system lifts the hair so when it's cut, it can drop below skin level without the blades touching your face. So for a perfect shave, remember, Norelco makes close comfortable.
People concerned about the dangers of the sun have always sought shade. But now there's a new kind of shade. Shade UVAGUARD sunscreen with an advanced ingredient that lets it go beyond ordinary sunscreens to provide extra protection against harmful UVA rays that can contribute to serious skin damage. So for extra protection, look for Shade. New Shade UVAGUARD sunscreen.
Some people think the only way to keep a carpet looking new is to avoid walking on it. But this is new DuPont Master Life. It can stand up to even heavy foot traffic and stay beautiful for years.
Thanks for the car, Dad.
DuPont Master Life. The more you walk on it, the more you'll like it. You'll only find Master Life where you find this Master Store sign. New colors and styles are being introduced right now. So call 1-800-3-MASTER today for a Master Store near you.
On the American Agenda tonight, where sexual harassment begins. There's a new study published today which claims to document sexually offensive behavior in the hallways of America's junior high and high schools. The vast majority of girls and even the boys say they have been harassed. Now, there's been so much focus on sexual harassment in the workplace. This study makes it clear the first place to deal with it may be in the schools. Our Agenda reporter's Carol Simpson.
All last year, Haley Todd says she was afraid to ride her bicycle because a boy at school had given her a terrifying warning.
He and his older brother was going to get me and my sister in the alley, and he was going to rape us and do whatever he wanted. That's what scared me the most. That's why I would not go out of my house for a long time.
Haley says she was bothered by more than verbal threats.
Whenever he was walking up the bus stop, he had his pants pulled down and he was reaching inside of his underwear and stuff, and I was shocked that was just the most disgusting thing I've ever seen.
Haley and the boy were both 11 and lived here in Sherman, Texas, a suburb of Dallas. They were fifth-grade students at Dillingham Middle School, where Haley says another boy joined in the harassment and made sexual comments while she was taking a test.
I'm thinking about what is he going to say next? Is he actually going to do that? I'm not thinking about what's the answer for number one.
When Haley's schoolwork began to suffer and she felt she couldn't take it anymore, she told her parents. First, they confronted the other parents, then school administrators, then the prosecutor, but all to no avail.
The district attorney's office, basically his investigator told my husband, boys will be boys. After all, we were boys ourselves, you know. This was the reaction from the district attorney's office.
Haley's case is perhaps extreme, but the tendency to dismiss inappropriate sexual behavior by boys is widespread. On the day our camera was in Haley's neighborhood, one of these boys made an obscene gesture. Increasingly, such conduct is being called sexual harassment, and there's new attention on its prevalence in schools. The American Association of University Women commissioned a national poll of students between grades 8 through 11 to find out how pervasive the problem of sexual harassment is. The results were startling. 85% of girls and 76% of boys claim that they have experienced sexual harassment, defined as being the target of unwelcome sexual comments, gestures, or graffiti, being grabbed or touched in a sexual way, or being forced to do something sexual. The survey confirmed that girls are most often harassed by boys. As girls' bodies mature physically, boys are more likely to taunt and tease them in sexual ways. While boys are also harassed, the survey found they are less likely than girls to suffer loss of self-esteem.
As adults, if we don't tackle this issue, we are in fact condoning it. That's the message students get, that if we don't say stop, this is wrong, students are getting the feeling that this behavior is not only okay now, it's okay later in life.
Some school systems, like the Montgomery County, Maryland public schools, are encouraging students like these at Walter Johnson High School to discuss the issue.
The comments, the rumors, everything. I mean, we live with it. It's so prevalent. It's so commonplace.
If you have a guy who's very promiscuous in high school, he's not going to be called a pimp. But if a girl makes if she's intimate with one person, she's automatically labeled a slut or a whore.
It's harmful and it's just disrespectful. And if it hurts somebody else, then it's something that should be stopped.
How many people honestly have enough guts to come out and say, this happened to me? I mean, it's very difficult for anybody to do that.
This year, the Montgomery County schools instituted new policies against sexual harassment, prohibiting inappropriate sexual conduct and promising strong disciplinary action. There were no such policies at Haley Todd's school. That's why she and her parents sued the boy. He was found guilty in court of sexual harassment. The case is on appeal. Haley has taken a lot of heat from other children, but she says she's glad she spoke out.
If I didn't stay and fight, it would happen to my daughter, my daughter's daughter, and go on and on and on. But if we fight it now, our daughters in the future won't have to put up with this.
Wise words from a 12-year-old who says she's still afraid to ride her bicycle alone. Carol Simpson, ABC News.
The American agenda for today. We'll be back in just a moment.
You are here. He has the traveler's checks here. Think about that. Now think about this. American Express traveler's checks for two. The only checks either of you can use. Don't leave home without them.
Worried about your interview tomorrow?
Not if I could get some Z's.
Nitol safely helps you fall asleep fast, so you can get your Z's. Nitol or Maximum Strength Nitol.
Nitol will help you get your Z's.
Day after day, you make those glasses of thick Metamucil disappear. Why not make them all disappear with FiberCon? Doctor-recommended FiberCon gives you the same fiber regularity in tablets.
Easy to swallow tablets.
Get doctor-recommended FiberCon.
When we chose a stain, I wanted a special color.
I wanted a stain that protects.
They both wanted Thompson Stain. In 100 custom colors, it's the only stain that contains Thompson's Water Seal Waterproofer. It waterproofs better than the leading brand's premium stain. Thompson Stain.
So what do you want from the 90s? Well, the Oldsmobile Achieva Special Edition can't give you that. But it does have air, automatic, anti-lock brakes, cruise, tilt, power windows and locks, and more. And it costs only $14,695, which could leave you feeling very good about yourself. It's your money.
Tonight on Nightline, ridiculed, reviled her appointment to the Justice Department in deep trouble. Will Lonnie Guinier's nomination survive? Tonight.
Finally from us this evening, the difference between good and great. In Game 1 of hockey's Stanley Cup Finals last night in Montreal, the Los Angeles Kings looked good as they beat the Montreal Canadiens 4-1. But while the Kings were unquestionably good, Wayne Gretzky, the Kings captain, was undoubtedly great. And what a place to be so. ABC's Dick Schaap reports tonight on the game's greatest player in hockey's most exciting arena.
The great one came to the Shrine last night. Wayne Gretzky in the Forum, the ancient and stately home of hockey's most successful franchise, the Montreal Canadiens, winners of 23 Stanley Cups, and hockey's most knowledgeable and passionate fans.
If you can't get ready to play in this rink here, something's wrong. And I mean, it's just tremendous building, tremendous atmosphere, great fans.
Canadien #1.
She's coming to see the greatest player in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
But you're a Montreal fan, Dad.
No, but I love Gretzky.
They love Gretzky in the Forum up to a point.
He's the best player in the world, after Mario Lemieux. Because Mario Lemieux is French, that's why.
For Gretzky, 9 times hockey's most valuable player, 9 times the scoring champion, this has been the worst of seasons, the best of seasons. He missed the first 39 games with a back injury that threatened to end his remarkable career. But in the playoffs, he has been rejuvenated at 32, lifting the LA Kings into a Stanley Cup final for the first time in their 26 seasons.
As a friend, I was more concerned about his ability to walk, much less play hockey again. And for him to come back and lead our team the way he's leading us now and be in the finals like this, I couldn't have begun to imagine this at all. It's just absolutely phenomenal.
Gretzky was phenomenal at the Forum last night. He assisted on the first 3 Los Angeles goals.
Harry Curry scores!
He scored the 4th, firing into an empty net.
Score! Wayne Gretzky!
He also scored Montreal's only goal accidentally.
Scored off Gretzky's stick!
What did his own goalie say?
Nice shot. I have to admit, I was pretty embarrassed about it. I mean, I didn't just tip it. I mean, it fired it. It went straight in.
He is the finest player I've ever seen, and he's the reason why I came to this game. I'd pay $1,000 just to watch this guy play.
The Forum is going to be replaced in a couple of years. Gretzky may never be. Dick Schaap, ABC News, Montreal.
That's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Nightline later. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Thursday, Linda Evans searches for romance when she takes a chance on love.
I don't believe in romance.
The glamour star of Dynasty is back, and she's looking for the sexiest guy in town.
What'd I get?
Linda Evans.